We are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of the Government Coins podcast. My name is ShaKeia. I'm one of your hosts on the podcast.
And my name is, oh man, we always mess this up.
They always do this, y'all.
My name is Christlie, and I'm also one of the co-hosts on the podcast.
And my name is Hamza Sabree, founder, CEO of Global Connects, and I'm also one of the co-hosts on the dopest government contracting podcast in the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm reporting live from Jamaica, and I'm loving it. Let's get it.
Yeah.
So today with us, we have an OG in the government contracting world. He specializes in selling software and services to state and local government agencies. So we felt like it was a no-brainer to make sure we have Thao on to the podcast. So Thao, would you mind sharing with the people, tell them about some of the work that you've done?
Oh my goodness. First of all, thank you so much, ShaKeia, for having us, having me, Hamza, Christlie. It's really nice to meet you both. I'm excited about the conversation. First of all, I just want to say, like, I'm in the ShaKeia fan club. I really love, like, I love your story, ShaKeia. I love the work that you're doing. It's God's work. Keep doing it. Helping governments be more effective, more accountable, more transparent, more efficient. That's hard business, and but it's necessary. And so, ShaKeia, thank you, and also Hamza, Christlie, thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, so my name is Thao Jones-Hill. I actually got married, y'all, back in July.
Congratulations!
So I have a hyphenated name now. I'm just I'm a first generation Vietnamese American born in rural Tennessee. So I'm just a country boy, that decided to get his engineering degree from Tennessee Tech University over in Cookeville, Tennessee. But I got bit early on by the politics bug. And I know it's crazy, but it really, it all makes sense. Like, I was like the president of my student government in middle school. I was like president of my student council in high school. I was like president of my senate in college. And I started like volunteering for political campaigns when I was in high school and college too. And when I graduated from college, and I got a job at Exxon Mobil. I was there for like a year and a half, and I was like, something wasn't. I wasn't just really tied to like that making a difference in my career. Not to say that folks at Exxon Mobil don't do that, but I was a computer engineer in a chemicals world. So I was driving home from a plant, a plastics plant in Baton Rouge, and every day I would drive home past the Capitol in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I would just kept saying to myself, like, I really just want to be there, because that's where the action is, that's where stuff's going on, is in that Capitol building in Baton Rouge, and so I applied for a database administrator job at the Louisiana legislature, and I got it. And so I moved over to working at the Louisiana legislature, and ended up becoming like the head of product development for the Louisiana legislature and the governor's office, Kathleen Blanco at the time. So I got to really dig in on open transparency, open meetings, transparent processes, and how to engage citizens with websites, and give them real-time information about what's going on inside that Capitol. And that was just such an exciting experience for me. And I honestly thought that I would just have been there forever. Hurricane Katrina changed my course. I was living part-time in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and that all went down back in the fall of 2005, around Labor Day 2005. And about that time, a friend of mine who was starting up a streaming video for council meetings company reached out to me and essentially was like, hey, do you want to be rescued and come out to California we're starting this company where we're essentially taking public access channels and putting them on the web. But we're doing this sort of interesting thing with it. We're integrating it with all this like legislative content. And so, I went west, joined a company called Granicus, and was the head of their product development team for a few years. Once that part of my career ended, I decided that well, they actually gave me the option, like, what do you want to do next? And I was like, well, I've never sold to government before, like, in sort of like a sales leadership role. So like, what do you think? And they're like, sure, yeah, let's do that. So I moved over from engineering and R&D over to sales. And I do have to say that, like, I think that gave me a little bit of an advantage, right? Because I really paid attention to like what the customers needed. We were building products that were really unique at the time. Like, no one was building like integrated like agenda systems with streaming video, and that was. It was a really unique offering, and it's something that like you really have to think about when you're like selling to government is uniqueness. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it makes a huge difference. Y'all know that. So anyway, so I was there. I did a almost 10-year stint with Granicus, and we sold that company to a private equity firm. And so I spent a little bit of time out in the private sector, just doing some like engineering consulting and sales consulting work here in the Bay Area. And then the founders of a company called GovList reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to join what they were working on, which was a system at that time. It was software to help write RFPs and bids. And I'd never really seen anything like that before, like actual software where you're not inside of a word processor. You're actually like building it with actual purpose-built software to build RFPs and bid documents. And that was enough for me. When I had seen what they were doing, I was like, oh, I know this. As a head of sales for Granicus for almost 4.5 years, I'd responded to so many RFPs, to so many bids, and it's a.
I gotta pause you on that, because you just kind of went real quickly by saying, yeah, you sold the company to a private equity firm. So I wanted to pause right there. How long did that take you to get to that phase of where that you wanted to actually sell?
Yeah, so with the work that we did at Granicus, it was I personally was involved in 9 years of work as head of products, head of company operations, then ultimately head of sales, where we had gotten to that point. And I'll tell you, back in like, I think it's 2015. I don't. It's 20 in and around that time. It's been a little while. But around 2015, like, there weren't a lot of government technology companies that were being acquired, and so I have to say that at that time I felt like that it was all just very like pioneering territory for us, and every person that was involved in that learned a ton from that, and I take that learning. Sometimes I call it baggage, but it's the learning that you get from the experiences that you have. And when I joined GovList, which was back in like mid 2018, I promised myself that I would take all of what I learned from that, and I would like make sure that, like, if we do it, if it happens again, that we would take all of our learnings and make sure that we do it right. So fast forward 2018, I joined up with the co-founders of GovList, and we took this product that was essentially an RFP writer, and we turned it into a full lifecycle procurement and contract management system. And we did it over the course of about 3 years. And so Hamza, back in July of this last year, we had changed our name from GovList to Procure Now, and by the way, that was important. That was really important. the brand makes so much of a difference. Like our company was called GovList, and we became Procure Now, and you can only imagine how that helped us, because I would go to conferences, I would pick up the phone, I would, hi, my name is Thao, I'm with GovList, GovLish. Oh,
Okay.
hi, my name is Thao, I'm with GovList, Govish, Godless. It, I got everything. Like,
Mhm.
and I'm like, no, it's not. It's government. Well, so are y'all like Craigslist for government? No, no. We write we have software that helps write RFPs and bids. And they're like, that's such a bad name.
uh,
Um, so we took that to heart, and we didn't want our brand to work against us. And so merely just finding the right name that really speaks to what we do. Procure Now, like how much more direct can you get than that? And here's what. And so I will. I'm gonna just keep going here, y'all, because why is that important, especially in government procurement? You have to put yourself in the mindset of like a procurement officer, buyer, and their job is to go out and research as much as they can about everything that's out there. And ultimately, like, and so what do you do if you do that? I go to a conference, I take down some names, I'm writing some notes about what people do, and then I go back to my desk. And when it's time for us to like bring up this initiative, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be like, where are my notes for that? And so I go and find my notes, and they may fill out, oh, I think I remember them. I remember them. Like, what are the names of the people that I remember? Because I need to send out emails to people, get demonstrations, that kind of stuff. And I said to my co-founders, I was like, that name, GovList, will never get on anybody's list. Like, they won't remember it. They won't remember us. No matter how hard we try, they won't remember it. But I want to make sure that, like, number one, when they think of, I'm looking for procurement systems, I want our name to have stuck, because that's what it boils down to. Like, they're going to write it down a list of people, and then they're going to call you, and they're going to ask you for demos. So step one, it's like, make sure that you have a memorable brand that people can really connect with. And so we did that. It worked really well. And of course, it's not just about the brand, y'all. But so anyway, so we. Boy, this is sure a long answer to a first question about who.
I'm
Tell me
enjoying it.
I
I'm
am.
enjoying the answer. It gave
It
so many things away.
compounds. Yeah.
You made the most
Hopefully I'm
important.
I'm sorry.
You made the most important part out of that. This is for the people that's tuning in right now. When how it is with branding your company correctly with government agencies, so they can know it's not about you were saying before as the name. Your name was throwing things off, but once you change the name around, you got a better feedback. And that's the same thing when you're doing business with the government. It's not about more of, you look at all the top 50 government contracting firms is out there, Lockheed Martin, Oracle, and Boeing. It's the name. And you'll never know that it was contracting,
Yeah.
but it's more how they brand it, and then the services and products and stuff like that they offer is pretty much was like an alley oop.
Totally. And I look at, because you compete for business in government, and they take you through an evaluation process, typically, most of the time, if if it's over a certain threshold. And then you actually get access to that information afterwards. Like, you call them, you ask for them, whether it's a post-mortem, it's an exit interview, whatever, you get to do that. 95% of the time they're going to give you that information. And so I love this, like, looking when I look at those matrices of people that I was competing with, and I see their names, and I'm like, I'm just making it up. It's like XDY Technologies, or you know what I mean? Or like, if I was real proud of myself, I'd be like, oh, let's call it like, Thao Solutions or something like that. I mean, maybe that might be a good name, actually.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was like, that is a good name though.
But you see how, like, sometimes I'll just like, I know how we all want to be proud of, like, the work that we're doing or whatever, but you got to stop and think about, like, you're like, it's not about me. It's not about my name. It's not about what I want to achieve. It's about, like, how can I be memorable to that person who's going to be making that decision. And there's so many facets to that. Branding is one definite facet to that.
So will you say branding goes along with like how you're going to plan on targeting that agency that you want to do business with?
Yeah. Now I'll roll into that a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Can you tell us about the second acquisition? Because I want to hit that. Like,
okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me wrap that up, and then we'll talk a little bit about like how we target folks. So, pandemic hit, and we started seeing some, well, here's the full story. When the pandemic hit, we had about, I don't know, maybe about 30 customers at the time, and we were all sort of like everybody else. We're like, what are we gonna do? And we all went into this mode of like, how can we help? Because that's the kind of people that we are. Like I have an immense amount of respect for my co-founders, and we all agreed at that moment that like we got to put ourselves aside and we got to figure out what we can do to help them. And so what we did was we took a piece of our solution. All the city halls, they started closing, right? So you can't walk in with a bid anymore. Even mailing it to them was difficult, and we all, like there's a lot of paper still going on in government contracting world. And so we're like, you know what, like let's just, anybody who wants, and not just one, anybody who needs this, who's doing everything on paper, who doesn't have a solution today, we want to offer a solution. And so we did, like we offered a trial to our solution that was a significant trial. It was like, you can use it for the rest of 2020 because it was about us helping them. It wasn't about it. Like there was not one moment where we were like, how are we going to convert this into cash? We just weren't thinking about that. We were like, how can we help these people that need our help right now? Because there's small businesses out there that need to continue to do business with the government. And if the government has to slow down because their processes aren't working or they're very paper-based, like that's going to be a huge problem. And so a lot of agencies took us up on that, and we're really grateful for that. Fortunately, we have a great product, and we had a great team that was helping support that product. And we walked out of there, 6 months later with glowing references. And that's sort of like, you tick off, there's certain things you tick off when it's like, you want to do business for a government. You have to make a good first impression. Glowing references. And, get a customer, make them really happy. Get another customer, make them really happy. Go get 2 more customers, make them really happy. Like you have to like it's a when you're starting grassroots, like what we did from essentially nothing, and 0 customers, and governments are coming to you, and the first thing they ask you is like, well, how much years of experience do you have? How many other government agencies do you work with? Like you gotta find a way around that, right? And to me, the only way, so we found a way around that. We found a way around that by like offering something that was unique and then bolting it onto something that they already needed. So they already needed all of the electronic bidding stuff that we were offering to them for free. But we had this other thing that was really unique that no one was doing, which was, helping them solve the RFP writing problem. It was the combination of that, of solving a core problem for them and then bolting on something that was unique that no one had solved before. That was like sort of I think it was sort of like the magic formula for us.
I'm like blown away because everything I think we all teach, you are the standing example of just exactly what we teach. Where I think it's like a lot of people in the midst of one thing we always say is like, don't think about, oh, this is just a get rich quick type of, avenue to expand. I was like, one thing with the government, you might not see the funds. It's an investment of relationships. And what you did in the midst of the pandemic, you pivoted quickly and looked at the purpose rather than looking to get paid. And so you looked at the purpose, you saw, hey, agencies are still paper. courthouses are closed, you're identifying the problem, which is what we always talk about. And then we're telling, you're like, well, if they're closed and they still need paper, but they still have to keep this part of their business functioning, then we can provide this, for free and make it extensively free for a certain amount of time. And I think although you guys were investing in the need, you also dropped some investment into your business, because it really does assure that if you, it's like really just giving an unsolicited proposal without writing the proposal. That's really what you just did. And then you did it to mass agencies like simultaneously, right? And so that ends up 6 months later, instead of writing an RFP, waiting to hear back, and then competing with others, you just did, hey, here's this demo, try it out. There you go. And then you came back. And I think we talk about that all the time. Mm-hmm. So I'm very glad that you're like expressing exactly what we talk about.
I'm glad too. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. Like, I mean, here's the thing too is, I mean, we do have to run a business, right? Like we do need to get paid. And, but to your point, when you're like, you have to, if you're going to sell to government and you're going to be working with the government, you gotta set yourself up for that patience, right? And that means like, you have to know that the cycles are longer. You have to know that it's going to be a while before you get paid. And you don't want to be, honestly, you don't want to be stressing out about that stuff, right? So, you got to keep your scope small enough to where like you can run a business lean. In our case, it was 3 people, with enough, with just enough customers so that we can, pay our bills. And know that like if we just stay the course and we're not motivated by that. What we're motivated by is helping people. Like I got so excited, when these agencies who needed this and we solved it for them. And by the way, we were the other thing is you got to be first. I mean, it's hard to do, but you got to be first because we had customers come to us later and say, you know what, like after you sent out that message about offering what you did for us, we had 4 other people do it too. And we turned the other 4 away because, we had already made that, made that with you. So, you do have to, you have to try to be, first with things like that, especially in this world that I'm in of like government procurement and contract management. It's like, and ShaKeia knows it, there's so many different flavors of these types of solutions. I mean, ShaKeia is actually kind of sort of a flavor of what we do of the procurement contract world. One that's really yummy, by the way, ShaKeia. I love your flavor. I can't get enough about that. Like, I hope, yeah, like you're doing good work. So where it ended up was once we got those customers who were really, really glowing references, then we started to compete because you can't respond to an RFP and win unless you have some of those key things. You have to have customers that are references. And so I always kept in the back of my mind, 3 references, 3 references, 3, like I just kept, and then it was like 5 references, because it's either 3 or 5. Yeah. 5 is sort of like the magic number. And I would just do, I wasn't worried about the next sale. I was worried about how happy I can make that customer to the point where they would just, get on megaphone and just talk about how awesome it was. And we weren't going to stop until that happened. And that is what happened. So you can imagine like having 10 customers, 20 customers, but they're all just amplifying how amazing their experience is with us. And it's a combination, like, it's great product, it's great service, it's a great relationship with the people that you're working with. Like you want them to think when they go in, they log in every day and they're doing their job, you want them thinking of you every day and thanking you every day for something that you do, because then that's what makes them like, get on megaphone and like shout out on LinkedIn. We had a customer that literally said, this was the best decision I've ever made as a director of purchasing on social media. And so
they constantly do that about
I mean,
the product, like about the team. Anytime I'm on LinkedIn, I constantly see these shout outs about the company. And I think that's a huge component in terms of what you were saying, making these customers so happy that they are advocating to their friends about you. I think that happens in every business, but people don't see it as much in terms of like government agencies. Like we see it as the opportunity to provide a solution and they get the check cut and then you're like on to the next one. But I think that is the beauty in you're playing the long game. You get what I'm saying? Like
it's definitely a long game. It's definitely a long game, and it definitely is like you just have to know that that's what you're doing. Now, I will say this: like I've seen companies like go from 0 to 1,000 really quickly. I mean, Granicus really did that. But if you look back on companies like Granicus, there's a few others I've seen that have done that in the GovTech space. The difference is uniqueness, and it's the quotient of uniqueness, and over like solving the challenge. Like if that, like, you just have to really think about that. Like, what's a big challenge? How can I solve it uniquely? If you find the big challenge and you solve it uniquely, then it goes like that, because you don't have to compete as much. And when you don't have to compete as much at the front end, then it can take off really quickly. ShaKeia, you and I are in a different business where there's so many different flavors of what we do. And so one of our challenges is having to cut through the noise of all of that other competition, and really focus on what makes us unique. And that can be really hard when, now, Christlie, to your point, we got to go out to bid for a lot of stuff. So that was actually sort of the next phase for us. It was like, when we bring on just enough customers, leverage their experience and their intelligence to help you continue to build things. Like our customers love doing that because it helps them, it helps us. It's a relationship that is such a win-win. And then you get to the point where you have those references. Now you can start to compete. And it's actually, I think, really important that you do start to compete, because governments want to know that you have won against other competitors. If there are other competitors. Like, if there are no other competitors, like, that's great. Like, that's the holy grail. But if there are, then you do want to compete. Like, you do want to find those RFPs where you feel like that you've got a strong chance of winning, because that is a new level of establishing credibility in this space. And so we did. That's what happened. Like, we ended up, okay, I've got these references. We've got a product that's working. Our customers love it. Let's compete. And we started competing, and we won. And then we compete again. We win again. Now we've got the formula for a successful GovTech startup, because we compete against incumbents and win. And other governments need to see that. They're going to ask questions like, are you on a piggyback, or are you on a cooperative? It's ironic because the question comes up like, they're like, how can I work with you and go around procurement? And I say that, and I'm like, it's an ironic thing that the business that we're in, because we're helping them try to solve like the efficiency and the accountability and the transparency, and the compliance issues around procurement and contracts, which are all necessary. Like, if you didn't have compliance, you wouldn't have fair competition. If you didn't have the regulation and the steps in the process, then they would just take that $1 million and go call up Uncle Joe, and that's fast, but it's also illegal. And it tends to leave out like historically underutilized businesses in that process as well. So we want to be a proponent for compliance and following the rules, but we want to try to find a way to shrink that time down, which is exactly what our technology ended up doing. Like it ended up saving them like 75 to 90% of the time that it took to write an RFP or bid. And that's significant. That was the significant thing that we did that was unique, is that, 9-month RFP processes turned into, writing turned into like a couple of weeks. And that was really significant for people purchasing IT, services, or people purchasing like public works stuff. That was significant. So the other thing I'll just say is this, which I think has been like one of the big keys of, I feel like where I've noticed that where I've been able to be a little bit more successful versus less so is, I think that it's important that you find that role in government. Like in my case, it's the government buyer. And you don't just do something for them, you do the thing for them. Like think about it like this, like I would walk around and say, I want my buyers to have my logo on their t-shirt walking into, the grocery store or into their city hall or whatever. Like I want them to be that, I want us to have that big of an impact that they consider us their favorite over everybody else. And whenever we bring on a new customer and I would like do the kickoff call, I would end the call by saying this. I said, I look forward to being your favorite software vendor, hands down. And so, but there's a ton of I'm just doing it for government buyers. There's public information officers, there are public works directors, there's an endless amount of different roles within government that you can solve problems for, and you know what? They need us they need public-private partnerships to solve big problems in government. So find that, do the research on like the role that you want to knock out of the park. Like you want to be the person that they think the most about. Because there's other ways to solve, there's other, solutions that are out there. I'm just saying my experience is that an easier path to this is to find that role within government, whether it be a communications specialist or, the person in charge of Parks and Rec or whatever. Solve a huge problem for them and make them your number one fan. Where they're not, they may have all these other tools that do other things for them, but like you're their favorite. And when you do that, then they're gonna show up to their conferences. They're gonna talk to everybody how much they love you. They're gonna wear your swag. That like you want them wearing your swag. And so, and I know that I'm boiling it down a little bit, but it really is about that. I thought about that every day. I'm like, how is it that I can make them love us so much that they're willing to like, and these are government buyers, like people who are like, as straight-laced as it gets when it comes to like dealing with vendors and that type of stuff. But here's the thing, and I heard this from one of my government buyers. They said, hey, you know what? Everyone expects me to talk so bad, like talk about a vendor when they do something bad. Why can't I talk about a vendor when they do something good? And I was like, amen to that, sister. Like I am like, they don't do enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard that, I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, can I use you as a reference? They're like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like but that is one thing you have to be careful about is like, they want to be fair and you want to respect that. So you need to ask for their permission.
Yeah.
But they'll sell it for you.
I would
if
say
you're their number one fan.
You did something, and I know I'm sorry, this is the last thing, mainly because listening to all your points, I would say you saw a bunch of P's. So one, you saw the problem, then you pivoted, right? Problem, pivoted, you moved with purpose, and then finally you became the point of contact, which before you became the point of contact, you improved processes. So if I'm gonna say anything, it's going to be see the problem, pivot, right? Move with purpose, improve a process, and become the point of contact.
Yeah.
That is all encompassing in what you said. And it's everything that I feel like Global Connect Black bunker, GovLia, like we're just saying those things all the time. And I feel like you answered most of the questions that we kind of had too, because I was like, well, they answers that. But I'll let anybody else ask any other question.
I'll actually add another P to that. How about that? How about like being personable? Like I mean, I hear it a lot. You know, if you're memorable, and you can't just be a class clown. You have to be competent first. And I always say, like, lead with competency. But when you lead with competency, then your personality and who you are and your care for them, it makes such a difference. Folks are, I think they're just taken advantage of so much. You know, people don't appreciate the work that they do in public service. And they're constantly being yelled at by citizens. They're constantly being yelled at by, you know, electeds, like, and to be able to like do something good for them and to know that there's someone thinking about them as like the primary thing that I'm thinking about. If that's what you're doing, then convey that. Like, make sure that they know that. Like, let them get to know you as a person. You know, because the other thing is that, you know, they're dealing with a lot of vendors that are calling them and emailing them and, you know, trying to sell them, you know, everything in the book. And you're competing with that too. So if you don't care, then you shouldn't be here, first of all. Because if you don't care and then you try to show them that you care, they pick up on that. You know, there's words for that. You know, adjectives for that, you know, that aren't very positive. But they pick up on that. And so, and you know, and when I look for people to, like, you know, join our team, you know, and like go on this journey with us, you look for people who have that genuine passion for doing this thing that we're doing, because you can't make it up and you can't pretend, because if you do, it's even worse. They pick up on it and they're just like, you know. So, I mean, that's just something you got to come built with, I think. Like, you know, you either got to love it or do something else that you love, you know, like, yeah, because people will see through it for sure.
I think I have one last question I wanted to add about, and you know, it's piggybacking off of that. How do you build relationships? Like, what are some steps or some things that you do to build relationships? I know earlier you spoke about events, and then also making like that first impression, your best impression. How do you do that?
Oh my gosh. I tell people things about me personally that you normally wouldn't do in a meeting. That, you know what I mean? Like, I walk into a meet, like, so there was an RFP finals that I walked into. I'd never met anyone before, but we put together a good proposal. We made it to the finals, and I walked in, and I brought my French bulldog puppy with me. Because I had just got him like a few weeks ago, and I had to drive like 3 hours to this place. I didn't have anybody to take care of him, and so I just brought him with me. I had him in this little, like, you know, like, what do you call it? Like a papoose or whatever, like the thing that you put the babies in. Like, I had my little baby French bulldog like right here in my front, and I had my little suit on, and I came in and his little head was sticking out, and I just told them about where I was. You know, like, there's not, and I don't think that I don't think there's anything wrong. I think people sometimes they want to be so just like, you know, stiff, and they don't want to get personal with people. But I just walked in, I was like, y'all, listen, like, I just got this puppy. I don't want to leave him at home. I didn't want to leave him in my car. You know, look at him. Would you want to leave him in the car? No, you'd want to bring him in with you. And of course, you know, and then all of a sudden I'm making this, I'm not saying bring a puppy to every, you know, that might work.
Everybody
also.
Bring your puppy.
Bring puppies to all your meetings.
Don't do that, everyone, please.
Don't do that. The point I'm making is that, like, and it's not, you know, it's not always about Butters. That's my dog. You know, but the point is that, like, I became real to them, and then that allowed them to become real with me. Like, they don't trust me. They never met me. Like, how is it that a person can gain someone's trust in an hour in a meeting when they've never met you before? That's hard to do. Now, especially when you're starting a company, like when your brand doesn't have trust, like I'm with OpenGov now, by the way, like I can't say enough about how incredible this journey has been, post acquisition, like company full of just amazing people. But there's a brand that precedes me when I go into that. It's a trusted brand. And so I don't have to do that as much, because I'm coming in with a trusted brand. When they don't know me, I got to figure out a way to like gain their trust and to get them to open up with me about what their real problems are, because they're not going to do that. You can't just sit down and be like, hey, Christlie, nice to meet you. My name's Thao. First time I've ever met you. How's your relationship with your partner going? Like what you're going to be like, who are you? Why are you asking me this question? And I'm not going to tell you anything. So same thing when you're walking into like a meeting for the first time. It's like, you want me to, so just tell me about your challenges. Yeah, let me tell you about my challenges. Like I might have my boss in the room, or I might not. I just may not know who you are. And like, you're not going to get the truth from them. So what do? You have to take a moment and like get real. Not like, how's the weather down in Tampa real? Like, because that's a thing. That's a thing, y'all. Like, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's snowing today where I am. Like, where is it over? Oh, okay. Like we got to get past the weather, and we got to start talking. We got to get personal. And I really think that it helps. Like, be vulnerable. If you're vulnerable for them, they're going to be vulnerable for you. And and that's when you can get out into business. That's when you can really find out, when they say things to us like, my colleagues, it's just all these adversarial conversations all the time. Like they're always pointing their fingers at me and like blaming me for everything. Like it just takes so much time. Like I hate, word processors. These are just things that I hear from people when I'm sitting down and talking with them. But they would have never, ever said that to me unless I had like gotten real with them. So bring your puppy. No, don't bring your puppy. But hopefully, hopefully that makes sense though. It's like,
it does.
Tell them about who you are.
It definitely does. Like being able to be who you are. I think that's one thing we don't talk about enough, being who you are in front of everyone. So
people buy from people.
And they know, like, and trust every single time. Know, like, and trust. Yeah. And I think this is the last question because we have to like wrap it up, but we wanted to ask you a little bit about, you said that now you are with OpenGov. So he didn't mention it, but Procure Now was acquired. That's the second one, y'all. He has 2 acquisitions. So Procure Now was acquired by OpenGov. So that is a point that, we wanted to add on to. So there are software solutions in the space that are designed to really help both agencies and small businesses to simplify this process. And that was one thing that I really enjoyed about the work that Thao was doing as well, because a lot of the solutions on the market, they focus on one side over the other one. And it's still complicated for businesses to navigate. So that was the beauty of this. We wanted to make sure and then also, then you have to pay for it. So that's another thing too. So Thao and I, we had a conversation about this when we first started, developing relationships and, really working to like partner to make opportunities not only available for small businesses, but for small minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses, because we at GovLia focus mostly on supplier diversity aspect. So us partnering with them was an easy fix. But again, a lot of the other solutions charge businesses to access the information, which is public information about procurement opportunities, but OpenGov does not. And it's completely online, y'all. You don't have to mail no paperwork in. You don't got to hurry up and get the Kinkos to print 3 copies off, put it on a USB drive, mail it. You don't have to do any of that. And I say that because that's how things still work in state and local spaces. It's still very antiquated. And
there's two trains of thought there. Like I've had folks in government say to me that they love the fact that we're free. they love the fact that we vendors don't have to pay $700 to print 7 copies of it at Kinko's and bind it and ship it. But I've actually had other people say, I don't agree with it, but I'm just saying that there's a train of thought. That's the cost of doing business with government. I actually heard somebody say that to me once, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be fine not doing business with you if that's what it takes.
It's public information.
Yeah, and well, it's a touchy little thing that goes on in the industry where it's the government will provide information to you at no cost. They will, but it's all around convenience. Like, how easy or hard are they going to make it? And so that's where the slope gets a little bit slippery. We at OpenGov Procurement have always, we want to focus on making government more effective, and more accountable, more transparent, more efficient, and so much so that operational efficiency is worth the spend on the license. And so if we focus on that and we do a really good job with that, and our governments are willing to pay us a license for that operational efficiency tool of the happiness that they get using our product, then we can turn around and we can make everything that we do for vendors at no additional cost. And so that's just the model that we've taken. Others don't take that model. But if you want, I can just give you just a 2-minute, how do you register for OpenGov Procurement and get quick access to our government bids that are in our network?
Absolutely. And I also just dropped the link in the YouTube chat. So if you're on YouTube, I dropped the link in there for you to go ahead and sign up so you can follow through with this. If you will be listening to this on the podcast, make sure you go to YouTube to check out the video, because he's going to give us an exclusive. Okay? Exclusive.
Yes. Awesome. And here's the other part about it. If I'm able to share my video, I will do that. Let me see if I can do that here. Oh yeah, thank you. All right. So, hey, part of this is that it doesn't take long. I mean, sometimes if you register for sites to sign up for your, just to get access to the bids, it can just be I want your social security number. I want a blood sample from your grandmother. It's all I'm I don't have that. You want that? I just want access to the bid. So what you'll do is you can actually, so secure.procurenow.com is the place where you start, or you can just go to Procure. If you go to procurenow.com, there's a little login button up here. Now, we are a part of OpenGov now, so that's why it says what it says here. New name, same great software. But you can go to procurenow.com, click the login button. It's going to bring you to this page. So it's all about starting here. Now, there's a sign up button. I'll just come in here. You put in your email address that you want to use.
And this is a cool trick that Thao taught me as well. If you add plus to the email, it'll still go to your email. So I thought that was pretty cool. I had no idea you can do that.
if it's Gmail, if it's the Google Suite, you can definitely do that. I'm not sure about the other ones, but yeah, I can make new email addresses all day long with that cool little plus there. So that's T-Hill plus government coins at opengov.com. So I'm just gonna click sign up here. It's just going to take just a moment, and you're going to get an email from us. Please disregard my inbox because it stresses me out. Stress. Okay, so okay, let's load up here. There it is. Okay, it says it's inviting me to activate my account. I click activate. I'm just going to give a little bit of information, y'all. I'm not asking for social security numbers or anything like that. I want first name, last name, name of your company, and a phone number. Don't do that. Give us the real thing. All right. And then you're just going to a password. Oops.
Is that a 15-digit password?
It's 12. Why so many characters? Latest research shows that the length is the best way to secure your password. So we got rid of the bangs and the capitals and the lowers and the numbers and that kind of stuff, and we just went with, it's just 12 characters, and it's actually really secure. I forget the number of years that it takes somebody to break a 12-character password, but it's a lot. All right, so guess what, y'all? That's it. Like, I'm done. I now can go over to the network tab, and I have access to, these are all the open bids that are in the OpenGov network. You can do searches by category. So if I'm a software company and I come in here and I do a lookup for software, I might find a bid or two that's looking for software. There you go. So you can so once you find a bid that you're interested in, what you can do is, let's say here I got this one for Norfolk Fire Rescue Records Management System. I can click on that, and it brings me to this place where I can start reading about the solicitation, reading a little bit about the details. When I'm ready, I can just click that draft response button, and it will guide you through the process of responding to this solicitation. Now, if I want to receive notifications from the city of Norfolk, just click over there on that portal and hit the subscribe button. You don't have to fill this out right now. It's okay. And now I'm subscribed, and I can either choose to get all opportunities from the city or just things that match my category code. So now I'm subscribed to the city of Norfolk. I might come back to my current opportunities, take a look, and they're like, oh, there's a project in the we'll pick on Virginia, city of Newport News. I might click on that, read this. Oh, look, I've got 33 minutes to respond to this bid. I better get on it. But if I want to also subscribe to Newport News, I just reach up there in that right-hand corner, hit subscribe. I'll do that later. Now I'm subscribed to both City of Norfolk and Newport News, and you can just continue to go through and pick the agencies who you want to receive notifications for, and you'll be able to manage all of them in one place. And again, like ShaKeia said, it's all free. So you can sign up for as many of these as you want. When I'm ready to respond to a bid, I come down here to Ocean County, New Jersey. This is what makes us a little bit different. When I go to respond, and I click, this one has 1 hour left, and I draft that response. It's letting me know that I'm not subscribed to the agency, so I'll go ahead and subscribe there too. But you see what's going to happen. This is what's different about what we do. It guides you through the process. Number one, we need you to fill out a signature page. Great, sounds good. If I click here, it's actually an online form that we've integrated with DocuSign. So you can come in, you fill out your information, and you just go through and, I fill in the blanks. I fill in the blanks, I sign where I'm ready, I get down, then, okay, now I'm done signing that. I go on to the next one. Do you agree with this? Mandatory equal opportunity? Yes. Do you agree with Americans with Disabilities Act? Yes. I got another document I need you to sign. So you see here how you're not actually going to be able to respond to the bid unless you fill it out, right? So it takes the guesswork out of whether you've done it right or not. You're very likely to not be disqualified because you're just following the instructions as they go along. So this is the alternative to this, as y'all probably realize, is like, I got a document over here, I got to print it out, I got to read what they're doing, and I got to find the instructions, and I got to figure out the system that they might make, or if they're even a system at all, like how I want to upload it. Did I do it right? Did I do it in the right order? Like, are they going to did I leave a form out by accident or something like that? So we call it like guided experiences. That's what we're giving to vendors, is a guided experience so that they have the highest probability of reading, understanding, and responding to government bids. And this is also, I think, really important when we're trying to promote small businesses, local businesses who are starting up their companies in these communities. They're going to be really good at the service they provide. They're not going to have a ton of experience responding to an RFP, and you don't want that to be the reason why they don't win the business. And so we're placing all our bets on these guided experiences for vendors, because we feel like that it's the most equitable way for us to ensure that both the veterans of responding to RFPs that have big teams of folks that do that all day long are going to have the same opportunity and be on the same level playing field as a newcomer to the space that doesn't know the ins and outs of like just how to respond to an RFP. Like, we don't want that to be the reason why they don't win the business.
Someone said, please solicit this to the state of Michigan.
I love the fact that I saw New Jersey on there because
Oh yeah.
there are a list of agencies in New Jersey that definitely need this, but I saw where it was like
Yes.
upload your New Jersey business certificate, which
Yeah.
not every state does, but here that is a huge issue. So that is wonderful.
Yeah, and it can be confusing the way that New Jersey, you have to like go to one office in order to get to get these forms filled out so that you're qualified to do business in the state. So yeah, we do. City of Newark, which I'm showing here right now, just recently switched over to our system, as well as Ocean County. And
Did they? Then
yeah,
I'm going to you for a class because I just signed a contract with them for procurement, like to teach government contracting.
in Newark.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, we got to talk. Yes, I
Yes.
love the folks over in Newark. They've been such a joy to work with. Yeah. Well, New Jersey is a really unique scenario, right? Because a year and a half ago, they didn't allow electronic responses to bids, and so there's a lot of work for you and I to do in the state of New Jersey because the pandemic sort of fueled the initiative to go into the electronic world. But now that they've solved that problem at the state level, that allows like local governments like Newark, Ocean County, Wayne Townships, and other Bergenfield, Middlesex County. So there's a lot of good work. There's a lot of good work for us to do in the state of New Jersey too.
Absolutely.
But I encourage everybody. It like ShaKeia said, like it's easy, it's free. We want as many folks to have access to these opportunities as possible, and our customers do too. So please take the moment, go to secure.procurement.com, sign up. If you have any questions, here's the kicker. You just reach down here in the bottom right hand of the screen, and there'll be someone who responds to you, typically in less than 5 minutes. So if you have any question about how to register, or like how to like subscribe to an agency, we've got an amazing team that's waiting there to help you get through that process. And again, it's all free. Like, if you have any trouble, well, you're not going to have any trouble with that experience. But if you do, just let me know.
Absolutely, Todd. This was amazing. We got a podcast episode and a demo of a software platform. This is the first, okay?
Well, thank you so much for letting me talk. I know it was a lot.
It was all valuable.
It was definitely awesome. Not just your software and format that you created, but more how you took the procedure to building a business, going after the business, making the relationships, during the procurement, like that alone, like the way you broke it down to the people that's viewing this, I'm pretty sure that they definitely got some valuable information along with your software. That was like the ice cream.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I'll tell you, there's a network out here, ShaKeia, and with there's a network out here to support. We need a support group, y'all. And the good thing is that there are groups out there that GovTech Dream Teams and other groups of people who have just pulled together because of the long game that this is. We do really have to support each other. So, Hamza, like to your point, like I owe so much to that community for being so supportive of me. Like I'm so happy to help others who are trying to build something amazing to help our communities. We need more of that now more than ever. So any of your audience, you guys, ladies, if you ever have any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about, please feel free to reach out to me. I want to see more ideas being pumped into our communities because we really need it now.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Thao. Everyone, we appreciate y'all. Y'all been standing in the paint with us today. We like have maintained our like watch goals and everything, and everyone's engaging on the YouTube channel. So I really appreciate that. We got us a good laugh from More DNC, who said, please solicit this to the state of Michigan now. So I'm still laughing at that because it's hilarious. But thank you so much, Thao, Christlie, Hamza. Y'all know I
Yes.
appreciate y'all. Hamza is all the way in Jamaica, y'all,
Yeah,
on this
man.
podcast.
Yeah, man. You know, like ready to get the jerking rice in a minute.
He's
Weak. I'm
enjoying his
weak.
vacation, his one vacation a year. The Hamza, the rule is that you have to come back.
Oh,
So
they extended my stay another week, so you know,
okay,
they
well,
like me here. They like me here. You know, home is like, you ever been somewhere where it made you feel like home? You didn't want to leave? There's this one of them
Jamaica's
things.
definitely like that. I'm telling you. When I was there, I didn't want to leave and go on vacation at first because I was like, I gotta work. But when I got there, I was like, what is work? Like,
I wake up to the water,
You know
man.
you chose the right place.
Pull the laptop out right on the cabana, right on the water. That's like scenery for me. I can work like that.
yeah,
Work
I'm
from
sure.
home.
Come back.
Work from anywhere. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your time there. Shoot,
Yes, I will.
it sounds like you got a whole other week. Is that what I hear?
A whole nother week.
Oh man. Wow.
Resort here, they love me. They said we're gonna extend your stay. I said I caught a one way anyway.
The truth comes out.
But
we never plan on coming back,
EP.
y'all.
Okay, got it.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Well,
Thao, for joining us. I
Oh my
appreciate
gosh.
you.
It's such a pleasure. It's so nice to hang out with y'all.
and everyone, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you got any questions, drop those questions in the comment section, and we'll be sure to get back with you. But in the meantime, we will check y'all out later.